I think I speak on behalf of my colleagues in this room, and we want the record to reflect that this was sent to us about 10 minutes before the briefing began, with little notice, and it's the very definition of a modern major holiday news dump.
Our lead story of the day, heck, our only story of the day, is yesterday's White House press briefing where reporters are pissed about the Biden administration's handling of this assessment that was released 10 minutes before this press briefing ever started. And this was a long-awaited assessment, folks. It was regarding the Afghanistan withdrawal. Now, if you read the document, almost half of it is blaming Donald Trump and his administration for the Afghanistan withdrawal that took place under the Biden administration. This is insane, folks, and the reporters push back here. They ask for accountability. Just watch the messaging coming out of this man's mouth, meaning John Kirby, for those that are listening on Audible or Podbean or podcast. Heck, you can find us anywhere and everywhere, which leads me into saying support a true American patriot by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. You leaving a comment, folks, does yeoman's work in supporting this show. It basically forces the YouTube algorithm to send our videos out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. So you are supporting the show, not just by watching it, but leaving a comment as well. Thank you so much. And with that being said, we got Ed O'Keefe here of CBS News, pissed, frustrated with the Biden administration's handling because they got this assessment 10 minutes before they stood on the podium and started taking questions. And you could hear it in his voice. His voice is shaky. He is mad. And just listen to his questions. This is kicking us off here.
So, John, thank you for doing this, but I think I speak on behalf of my colleagues in this room, and we want the record to reflect that this was sent to us about 10 minutes before the briefing began, with little notice, and it's the very definition of a modern major holiday news dump. You're releasing this at the beginning of the high holidays, and after months of requests from Republicans and the broader public. So why today? And is this all we get? And is this a response to the studies that were done by the agencies? Or is this considered a summary?
There's a lot there. This is the result of months and months of work by individual agencies who were participating in the withdrawal to voluntarily review that withdrawal, which they did. And they worked through that. These documents are classified. And we felt it was the responsible thing to do after those reviews were done to then run a process across the administration to take a look at those reviews ourselves across the interagency, work our way through it, and then provide them to the relevant committees and leaders on the Hill, which we did today. We think that was the responsible thing to do. And what you're seeing today is the result and the culmination of an awful lot of work, Ed. No effort here to try to obfuscate or try to bury something. It's an effort to try to be as open, as transparent as we can be. And what you got in that document there is a pretty fair summary of our perspectives of the work over those many months and pulling and collating a lot of those lessons learned together. And we're trying to present certainly the key lessons learned, the ones that we're able to share more openly and more publicly with you. And I'll tell you this, you got questions after the briefing today? I'll stay here as long as you want. But you got questions after the briefing today? You know how to get a hold of me. We'll answer whatever you have.
I got two specific.
Ed will continue here, and we'll be sure to cover it. I would like to point out that I don't believe this administration whatsoever. How many times have we heard that? Well, you know how to get a hold of me. Speaking about the classified documents, well, talk to this person. This person led them to another person. And then that other person led them to another person. They couldn't get any of their questions answered, and they were all frustrated about it. So now we're going into a holiday weekend here, which he's not going to be sitting at work probably. So they're not going to get any questions answered. Heck, they want to spend time with their families. They dropped this strategically, folks. They did this strategically. Just like Ed said, it's a cover-up, folks. They don't want people to talk about this. They know the news cycle is going to transition. Something's going to happen over the weekend where nobody's going to talk about this next week. So we all know what they're doing here. They're being strategic, but let's Ed continue.
Specific ones about what's in this document after a speed read here. On page 8, the President received and accepted the unanimous advice of his top national security officials to end the evacuation on August 31st. what is the definition of a top national security official? Because we know, for example, that General McKenzie, who was then head of CENTCOM, has said he objected to aspects of this. So what's the definition of a top national security official?
I am loath to get into the individual advice that individual members of the president's team give him. That would not be appropriate for me. But I can tell you, having lived through this as well at the Pentagon, that the president specifically asked his team, should we extend past the 31st? He specifically asked them to go back and look and see what that would look like, because we had secured this additional time from the Taliban to the 31st of August. And the team did that. The team did that, Ed, not just at the highest levels of the Pentagon, from the Secretary to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs to General McKenzie, but even the operational commanders on the ground. And there were numerous flag and general officers on the ground at the airport. All of them took a fair look at the president's request and came back to him
Are they all top national security
and
officials?
said that it would not be advisable, given the high threat environment. Remember what also happened on the 26th, that attack at Abbey Gate? And then we had a very high temp between the 26th and the 30th, in which, of course, there was a kinetic strike taken in downtown Kabul. There was high temp. And so the advice of his senior national security team, all the way up to the senior levels of the Pentagon, advised him that the 31st was the appropriate date to end that evacuation.
There's 4
Not just about the date, not just about the evacuation date. Everybody in the intelligence community was wrong about this. And that's going to appear later in this press briefing, of which you guarantee your booties I'm going to cover. But it is amazing here. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. If you were to read the document itself, almost half of it is blaming Trump for all of this, which is insane.
pages here of blame on the previous administration, or this White House explanation of what the last White House did regarding Afghanistan. Nowhere in here does there appear to be any expression of accountability or mistake by either the president himself or others. Is there any for what happened?
Everybody, pause 1 second. Do you think Joe Biden's going to take any sort of responsibility here? Do you think John Kirby's just going to give a layup of an answer going, he takes responsibility of this, this, and this, and he's going to be absolutely specific? He might say, oh, sure, the president takes some sort of responsibility, and probably will word it all weird and everything like that. It's amazing that there was an entire assessment, and in the entire assessment, at no point does it mention Joe Biden's fault in there anywhere. And we've hounded this for 2 years. Joe Biden hasn't done a damn thing wrong as president. It's been everybody else. Zelensky, Xi, North Korea, Iran, illegal immigrants. Trump's the majority of it. It's Vladimir Putin. It's the Putin's price hike. It was this or that. I mean, it is everything and anything else's fault. Very similar to Hillary Clinton and the reason why she lost her presidency. It's anything and everything's fault other than the individual themselves.
I would argue that the very fact that we voluntarily, the agencies voluntarily decided to go conduct after-action reviews, nobody told them to do that. That wasn't legislated by Congress. They did that on their own. And the fact that they did that, and that we were now placing it on the Hill for Congress to look at, the fact that we digested and distilled some of the key points of that and gave it out in a public document, the fact that I'm up here talking to you about it, I think shows you how seriously that the president felt about learning lessons from this withdrawal. I would also point out to you that the work isn't over. So, number one, even before you got that document, some of those lessons were applied. I talked about Ethiopia, I talked about Ukraine. And number two, it's not like the work is all over. The president signed the legislation enabling the Afghan War Commission to be formed, and we're going to continue to work and cooperate with that. That's going to look at the whole 20 years. America's longest war deserves a lengthy review and lengthy study, and the president's committed to that.
The question was, does Joe Biden, the president of the United States, that woke up one morning and said, I think we should pull out of Afghanistan, does he take any responsibility for this? Didn't answer the question. But him standing on the podium, you guys, him standing on the podium is them somehow, shape, or form taking responsibility over an assessment that wasn't done by legislation. They weren't commanded to do it. They did it voluntarily, you guys. See, we should be so thankful and be kissing the feet of Joe Biden and the Biden administration for doing that. Amazing that there's no responsibility being taken, no accountability, which again, like I mentioned, will be brought up by Philip Wegman of Real Clear Politics, the Gladiator. And boy, oh boy, folks, wait till we get to Peter Doocy's question of Fox News, because John Kirby gets spicy with him. Wait till we get to that one.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.